101 ESPN.
Actually, I'm sure Jeff Luhnow's got a study somewhere that shows the the success rate based on money spent on number one draft picks, first overall, second overall, third overall, fourth, right on down the line. Like, in other words, does it make more sense to pay a number one overall pick, or are you better off drafting lower?
It's a good question. We've actually looked at it for the NFL as well.
Really?
See that? I knew he'd be on it.
There you go.
Cardinals VP Jeff Luhnow joins us here. Yeah. So what?
It's a lot more difficult to create value with a top NFL pick than it is with a top baseball pick, historically speaking, of course. But you do get what you pay for in the draft, as you do with free agency and the international market as well. We've done a lot of this analysis. Obviously, I can't share it because we feel it's our part of our competitive advantage, knowing the different markets. But we've compared the free agent market to the international market to the draft market, and then within the draft market, players taken early, players taken late, college players, high school players, players taken late and given higher bonuses, all of those different categories, and kind of categorized them each into a return on investment bucket. And of course, you don't take a bucket, you take a player, so you still have to have really good scouts determining who these players are and what their potential is.
But at least outline some probabilities, right?
Absolutely.
And you're looking for information as much as you can get.
From a team perspective, would you guys rather have a slotting system or like it is in baseball right now? I mean, what's better kind of for the team?
Well, it's a tricky question. I think overall the system, the way it is today, allows you some flexibility that we appreciate. We've gotten used to it. We feel like we can do some things.
You wouldn't have been able to get Shelby Miller if there was a slotting system.
I think if the slotting system existed, we probably would not. And I think we've adapted the system as it is. I think we would adapt to any new system. I know there's a lot of discussion about changing for the next collective bargaining agreement. Those conversations will go on, and we'll be ready for it if it happens. But I'm fine with the way it is today. I think we've engineered ourselves to be able to take advantage of it, and we're going to continue to do that.
Jeff Luhnow is with us here on 101 ESPN. Brian Feldman, Bernie Miklasz with you in Jupiter, Florida. We'll be broadcasting our show St. Louis time, 12 to 2, all the way through Friday here on 101 ESPN. Today, a couple of very promising prospects, including Shelby Miller, through the other gentleman, Sam Freeman, who I was telling you before we went on air. I was more intrigued by him because I don't know much about him. We all kind of know Shelby Miller, and let's talk about them though. I mean, what do you think? What was the point of bringing the two youngsters in the camp? Like, what are you hoping they gain from it? And then we'll go from there. A couple other questions about them.
Well, to start off, just getting them exposed to the attitudes, the culture of our big league camp. Being in the meeting this morning with Tony and the staff, and hearing those words. Those are important events in a player's baseball life, and both of these young men have tremendous potential, and the plan was to bring them in a little bit early anyway and just have them work out on the side. Mo decided, and I think made a good decision, to just throw them right into camp and have them be indoctrinated full blast. And it's worked out so far. I think they're going to get exposed to the major league staff. Part of this is a comfort level, and the more Dave and Tony and Marty and the rest of the guys get to know these players, when it comes time and they're going up the system and it comes time for a call-up, they know who they are and they know what they're getting, or at least they won't be seeing them for the first time. So I think that's important.
I think we were all very impressed by how Freeman and Miller threw today. I mean, again, it's practice, as Allen Iverson would say, but still, you either have talent or you don't, and it's pretty evident they have a lot of talent.
Well, it's practice with a purpose, and I think that's something we stress a lot in the Cardinal organization. You're not just out there to loosen up your arm, you're out there to work on certain things, and all three of those guys that were throwing today, including P.J. Walters, were throwing their first live bullpen here at Roger Dean for this year's season. And, they're going to work out some kinks, and they're going to get better, and they're going to throw again in a couple of days, and then they'll eventually be facing hitters sometime next week, and off they go. But as you said, rubber meets the road when they get out in games, and we'll find out how they do. I'm looking forward to watching those guys in games.
Cardinals VP of Player Development, Jeff Luhnow, joining us here on the Bernie Show on 101 ESPN. Jeff, when you kind of evaluate a team's farm system, you can do it in several different ways. It's just you can look at the number of star potential type players that you have, or guys that are star players but also guys that'll just make it there. How should a farm system be looked at? Because if you're going to look at the Cardinals, people would say, okay, Shelby Miller's the only ace, star potential type guy that they have. How do you think a farm system should be judged?
Well, first of all, when you're evaluating the future, you're making a lot of guesses, and that's the first point. What we try and do is make as educated a guess as we possibly can, which means taking the information that we have and looking at what history suggests and trying to figure out what we think is going to happen in the future. The information that we have is our own internal scouting reports. We believe we have a better evaluation of these players than anybody else does because they're our own players and we have good scouts and we've seen them a lot. The information about what they've done historically and what that means for the future, also I think we're best in class at doing that. The part where we may not have as good information as, for example, another club is on their players. But we do scout their players. We also have all the historical performance information. And we put all that together into our own methodology, which has been tested going back in time and looking at how it would have done. And it's about as good as you can get given the information we have available to us. And that's how we look at it. Now, we're not trying to sell newspapers. We're not trying to drum up excitement. We're trying to figure out how many wins above replacement or whatever the metric is that we're using, we're projected to get from our farm system, in what areas, what positions we're weak at, where do we need to supplement, where might we need to go out in the free agent market in 2, 3 years, 4 years, that type of stuff. So it's all for a business purpose. It's not just for our own entertainment. And we do take it seriously. We got a lot of smart people working on it.
How much is it talking to other teams and making them think that you have a great farm system for potential trades maybe?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, that's sort of the Tommy Lasorda, Los Angeles Dodgers strategy. Always say positive things about your own players so that when it comes time for a trade, other teams want them. I think teams are pretty smart about that, and I think just me telling you guys how great a player is isn't going to get another organization to trade for him. But at the same time, I also feel like these players, we've invested a lot in them. We scouted them. We brought them in. We've developed them. We've gotten to know them. And, of course, I'm going to be biased towards these guys. They're a great group of guys. You guys have gotten to know them a little bit in your years here and spending time with them. And I get to know them a little bit more intimately than you guys do. And I become friends with a lot of them, and I root for them. And given the choice of having one of our guys make it or bringing in a guy from the outside, all day long I'm going to choose our guy and I'm going to favor them. But you can't see the world through rose-colored glasses either. You have to be realistic. If you're weak in a particular area, like we think we're weak in left-handed relief in the minors, left-handed starting pitching, you got to work hard to go out and get better players, and that's what we're doing.
Jeff Luhnow with us here on 101 ESPN. Here's a question for you. We all love power, and it's always great to see like a Pujols emerge from a farm system and start hitting home runs. It's not something that's happened a lot with the Cardinals, frankly. It's just through the years, not during your time. I mean, just through the years. We know about Alan Craig and his potential for power. Of course, David Freese with his potential for power. Who are some other people that, even going down as far down as your low A, who are a couple, 3 guys to keep our eye on in terms of who you think have a chance to be legitimate power hitters in the big leagues?
Well, there are guys. The challenge with hitting for power is that oftentimes it's one of those things that develops late in your minor league career. And, in fact, in some cases doesn't really even develop until you become a big league player. But, we've got some guys that we think down in the minors. There's a kid last year that we drafted out of Slippery Rock University, late-round draft pick. His name is Matt Adams. And he went to Johnson City, and, young kid, kind of a bigger kid, was a catcher. We turned him into a first baseman, and he just started to hit for power. And I think that's the guy I'm really looking forward to watching this year. There was another kid named Richard Roccabaldo. When we drafted him, we said we were drafting The Rock, and I think we got a couple laughs out of that. Late-round draft pick who came in again to Johnson City and hit for good power. So I think those are some guys. But then you look sort of even further down, guys like Roberto De La Cruz, who is a third baseman that we drafted. I mean, we paid a lot of money for out of the Dominican Republic. He's going to develop some interesting power. But, he's 17, turning 18 this year. And he's still a long ways away from that power showing itself. But he's got the right swing. He's got the right strength. And that's the type of guy that ultimately down the road we think is going to have power.
How big of a draft is this June going to be for you guys after what you guys did in trading for Mark DeRosa and, of course, Matt Holliday?
Well, I kind of put it up there with the 2005 draft where we had the extra picks and we really felt like we needed to replenish the system. And we got Colby and we got Jaime and we got Darryl Jones and Boggs and some other guys. I think this draft is comparable to that one. We have a great opportunity here with some of the extra picks.
You have 2 extra picks in the first round,
We have 2 extra picks, so we're going to end up having 3 first-round picks. And we got to take advantage of that. And I've already been out. I was out all last weekend. I probably saw about 12 of top 3-round players just last weekend, and the week before that saw another handful. And this is a good draft. There's some interesting players. There's a lot of young pitching in this draft. It's a difficult draft to separate the number 4 pick from the number 30 pick, so we really have to do our homework. But we'll be ready, and I'm excited about the challenge, and I know our scouts are doing a good job looking at these guys.
Jeff Luhnow, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And stuff's always fascinating to us, and we'll be watching your baby birds this spring.
All right. Nice talking to you guys.
All right. We'll be talking to you a lot as always. That's Jeff Luhnow, Cardinals VP of Player Development.